What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut's Kingdom for another build challenge. I've got this Sherman Firefly kit I bought from Panzer Brick Labs, as well as a small hedgerow mock just chilling in the studio. So the only logical thing seemed to be to combine the two, giving this mock a much needed upgrade and creating an explosive diorama to display the new tank. If you like big tanks and you cannot lie, make sure to open fire on that like button and let's get started. In a rare turn of events, I'm starting the challenge by building the vehicle first. This is one of my first purchases from Panzer Brick Labs and my first ever custom Lego kit purchase, so I'm very interested to see what I think. The parts are all new and come in sealed plastic bags. This was a pricey model coming in at $168 US, but that's pretty cheap compared to most custom tank kits on the market, and a big draw for me was I didn't have to source the parts myself, and it comes with printed pieces, which really improves the look of a vehicle. And you know I don't have the time to be messing around with stickers. The build started out pretty smooth with the chassis. It's a little on the small side at 7 studs wide. It's built in 1/45th scale, same as all vehicles on Panzer Brick Labs, which is still minifig compatible, but a little on the small side. This was one of my concerns when considering this kit, but I ultimately decided the good price and well-designed model was worth it, since I can just make it bigger later if I need to. Now, the worst part of building any tank model is spending the time connecting the seemingly endless track links together, but I got a pleasant surprise when I came to this step. The links are connected into 10-piece segments which can be easily connected together, saving me a lot of time and patience. I noticed the treads are really tight on the track, so I added an extra link to each one for smoother running. I also saw the back wheel was causing the tracks to bow inward because it's not in line with the rest of the wheels. I realized I messed up a step where I was supposed to leave a small gap between the bar and the wheel it's connected to, so it sticks out farther, but I just added a round stud behind the wheel and now it sticks out just as far and can't get pushed back on the bar. Now the treads run like a dream. You're probably not here for a deep dive into tank tread mods, so let's move on. The build is very cleverly designed. Look at this section of frontal armor. You have studs in all directions and neck brackets connecting to each other, but when it's connected to the body, it all fits together smoothly. This leads me to a point I want to make about custom kits. I often see people complaining about how expensive they are, especially in places like Brickmania, and don't get me wrong, in many cases I agree. But one thing to take into consideration is time spent on a design. You're not just paying for the bricks and instructions. I see people saying, well, you can just source the pieces yourself for cheaper, and that's true, but what about the time it would take to design something yourself? Who knows how long it took to design this model, and it probably would have taken me even longer to design something that wouldn't even look as good as this one. Someone took the time to design a Sherman Firefly, so I don't have to, and that should be reflected in the price. Now I can spend my time building something else that's a lot more enjoyable to me instead of fiddling around with a vehicle build. I know this isn't the case for everybody, but that's just something to keep in mind when shopping custom kits. Lego lecture aside, this tank is done and ready to hit the road. The reason I built the tank first is so I'd know how big to make the diorama, because I'm not trying to build a whole countryside mock out here, just something big enough to fit the tank but be small enough to fit into my already crammed display shelves. I'm going with a simple black frame, and if this were a Lego set, that would mean slapping an extra $50 to the price tag, since we all know black border means adults only. This should fit the tank and the rest of the scene nicely with a little extra room to spare. I'm building a display piece, so I want to step up the level of detail from my typical challenge video builds. I'm going to start by adding tread marks in the road. I want to have actual indentations where the tank's driven, and I want to add this in first so I know how high to make the rest of the road. And to help the furrows stand out even more, I'm topping them off with dark orange to look like an underlayer of dirt or something has been exposed. Let me know in the comments what you think of this technique. Now I can just fill in the rest of the space with a reddish brown path. This mock is going to be depicting a very specific place and one of my favorite battlefields of World War II, the French bocage or hedge country. It's part of the French countryside with small wooded patches and farms with fields fenced in by tall hedgerows to block wind and help direct and retain water. The reason I love this spot specifically is because of how beautiful yet treacherous it was. You all know how much I love my outdoor nature mock, and this area became a maze of firefights and ambushes after Allied forces landed on the beaches of Normandy and pushed into France. The hedges and roads forced incoming Allied troops and tanks to take certain routes where German forces were hiding amongst the hedges and towns waiting to strike. I would love to build some firefights in French villages in the future. I was really excited to try my hand at building some hedges. When you think hedge, a very specific image comes to mind. A green fence or wall, often manicured or shaped in a certain way. I've never attempted a blocky plant build like this before, and I designed some smaller ones when building that little vignette you saw earlier. I used headlight bricks with studs on all sides as the base, that way I can build in any direction I need, and because I don't really have any headlight bricks with studs on only 2 sides. I built a rectangular frame with those and added some green plate to the bottom half to make the hedge a little beefier at the base. I didn't have enough 3-pronged leaf pieces, so I had to get like 100 more from Bricklink, and while I was on the store, I happened to pick up a few other cool things. I figured why not, I'm already paying for the shipping, and they had a bunch of really big plant pieces that are worth their weight in gold these days. Given how many years I've been doing gray Star Wars MOCs, my collection of nature parts needs some serious bolstering anyways. Now it's just a matter of covering up the headlight bricks with leaf pieces, placing them at all angles and at differing heights, trying to cover any gaps to make this look as much like a hedge wall as possible. Once the main layers of foliage were in, I covered any remaining gaps with other plant pieces to give the build a little variety and hopefully beef it up some more. Recently, I've been investing in more real-life world-building pieces to make my MOCs feel more realistic, like crates and the Stoke bicycle. And I'm not going to miss an opportunity to showcase some of my new US soldier minifigs. I also decided to have the Firefly in the act of firing to make the scene more dramatic. I'm pretty pleased with this MOC overall. Having seen it built, I do feel like the Firefly is too small, but I can always make it bigger later, and the important thing like the design and printed tiles are just what I wanted out of the kit. I did modify the turret by removing some cheese slopes and replacing them with a tile. That way the barrel can be raised. There is a gap now when the barrel is horizontal, but that can be easily filled in with another 1x3 tile. I added some extra trappings to the Firefly like packs, a bundle of logs, and some gas cans to the back. Adding extra stuff like this to vehicles is often a lot more fun for me than designing one myself. The troops look great and I can't wait to use them in more builds. Unfortunately, the hedges are a little disappointing. I can't really put my finger on why, but I think they might be too flat or too thin. More plant pieces would solve both those issues, but I'll need to order in some more first. The Fireburst adds a great pop of color, and I added a shell to the end to further elevate the scene. Hedge disappointments aside, I had a lot of fun building this, and it's a great way to display the Firefly, which is probably my favorite tank to come out of World War II, and I'm definitely going to be getting some German armor to go up against it in the future. Don't forget to let me know what you thought of the MOC down below in the comments, and until next time, happy building.